Right, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this meeting of the Overview Committee. And for anybody joining us for the first time, you're doubly welcome. Councillor Hesketh, you're particularly welcome.
Thank you.
We hope you enjoy the meeting, and if there's anything that you don't understand, please stop me and we'll do our best to explain. Okay, so item number 1 is apologies for absence. Do we have any apologies, Laura, please?
Thank you, Chairman. No apologies today.
So we are, I think, Councillor Hall short, are we, at the moment? That Councillor Hall. Not, yes, Councillor Alex Hall. He may join us during the course of the meeting. Item 2 then is disclosure of interest, if any. If anything becomes apparent during the course of the meeting, please declare it. Councillor Meckinson Saunders.
Number 8, I'm a director of, not Magnavita, is it? No, it's PS2. Sorry, it's my agent.
Have to remember which hat you're wearing. Yeah. Thank you. Anybody, anything else? If not, item 3 then is minutes. Minutes to confirm the minutes of the meeting held on Tuesday, the 22nd of July. Can I sign those as true record? Moved. Is it seconded somewhere? All in favour? Anybody against? No, thank you very much. And item 4 then is actions, starting on page 47. Anybody have anything from the actions on page 47 they wish to bring up? Page 48. It is, I agree with you, it's not the easiest thing, but page 48 at the bottom. Page 49. And page 50.
Bottom 49, please.
Yep.
I don't think the Integrated Care Board has grasped the caravan issue, because basically a lot of people come, and I know this from the experience when I was on the Hospital Trust Board, a lot of people come to the seaside in summer, they feel a lot better and they don't bring the drugs and they end up in hospital, especially if they've got a heart condition. I'm not talking about necessarily people who are living in caravans, it's the transient population who get ill whilst they're here. And I don't think the Integrated Care Board have understood that, having read this note. So
No.
I don't know how we explain that to them, but it frequently happens. And I used to go around Louth Hospital, and I should think over half the people in the beds were from, they'd tell me, oh, I'm from Newark or I'm from Nottingham or whatever. And I was feeling really well down at Mablethorpe, and then, so I didn't take my tablets. QED. So I think I could write an explanation if you want me to, but I just think they're on the right track with this.
I think that might help actually, if you could write us an explanation that we could email through to them. At least it would be an attempt at trying to get an answer to the problem and for them to understand the problem.
I think the GPs at Chapel St Leonard and perhaps in Skegness as well had an awful lot of these holiday maker patients, but they probably go to out of hours or whatever these days. I don't know, but it'd be worth the Integrated Care Board finding out. But if it's something I can, if I can slip it into a conversation at the health at the health thing in Lincoln, I will do.
Okay, and we'll add to the actions to send an email explaining. Anybody else got anything on page 49? Councillor Watson? You're on page 50. Councillor Meckinson Saunders? You're on 50. Right, we'll go to page 50 then. Councillor Watson.
Thanks, Chair. I'd like to query why Councillor Devereux, the portfolio holder, is not able to attend our October 2025 meeting when this has been on the cards since much earlier in the year. And the reasons to have a private briefing with yourself. This is hardly, I would have thought, in the spirit of openness and transparency that we expect on the Overview Committee. I wonder if you care to inform us more about that.
I can't really inform you more than I know, which is that we invited her and got the response that she was unable to attend. I haven't had a private briefing with her because, like you, I don't really think that's in the spirit of the request from the Overview Committee. So really, I'm in your hands as to what you would like to do about that or not. I know she works, and it's not always easy for people who work to get time off to attend a 10 o'clock meeting.
Because I was going to bring exactly the same thing up. Somebody in my group who's on another committee, he struggled with his employers, and the chief executive has really very kindly written to his employers and said that under the rules and regulations, they have to actually give people time off to go and do things like being in councils and stuff. So I'm sure, I think Tuesday's the day that Sarah does work, but I think that, you know, there's a flexibility that employers, and I know she's got an important job and I can understand her reasoning, but like Councillor Watson said, I think when you're a portfolio here, you've got to remember that. I'm sure Councillor Marsh might have something to say.
No is the answer to that. I think Councillor Marsh doesn't. Councillor Watson.
Possibly a way forward might be for you to have this private briefing and then decide on the basis of that. I'm quite happy for you to do that, and because you're clearly of the same mind. And then subsequent, after having had the private briefing, you then might decide whether and the detail what should come before this committee. So yeah, we'll take it from there.
Okay, I'm happy to do that if you would like me to.
There is another way around it. If her employer doesn't want her to come all the way to Horncastle, she could actually couldn't she just have a room where she works and just come online and do it online with us? It would probably only take 20 minutes or something.
I'll suggest that to her.
That's an easier solution.
I mean, that's actually probably a good compromise, and I'll suggest that to her, see if we can do that. Yeah. Yeah. But I'll talk to her on your behalf and we'll see what we can come up with. Okay. Thank you for that. Anybody got anything else on page 50? If not, thank you very much. We'll move to the next item on the agenda, which is item 5, which is budget preparation for 26-27 approach and process. And I'll hand over to Brendan to introduce this.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, members. Good morning, colleagues. The report that's before you today is setting out, it was produced a little while ago now, and it has been through various meetings and approval processes, not least through audit and governance. And it has been adopted as the route that the council will use to prepare its budget. And so it's here today for you to advise on your views on this, and in particular with regard to the budget scrutiny meeting that is being planned for early January 2026. But I thought it might be helpful just to paint in the background to why we're on a journey of using a budget process that is somewhat different than has been used in the past. As members may know, I've been with the council now for about 6 months, and on arrival, one of the consistent messages that I receive from members, generally from cabinet members, from senior staff, from managers in the organisation, was that actually the budget was always done in a bit of a rush, and there was never enough time to explore some of the issues that people would have wished to explore. And so a list of the issues that I encountered is at 3.1 in the report on page 53 of your pack. So insufficient time, to do various things, including the preparation of budget materials, insufficient time to prepare financial information to the quality that was needed, and really to serve the numerous meetings that are necessary to, in a local authority, to get a budget formulated and agreed. And there's a list of other matters there as well. I draw your attention to point 3.1F, which notes that the role of the scrutiny function is underdeveloped in the council compared to the audit and governance function, in particular with reference to budget setting. And so there are a number of issues that we've tried to correct in terms of putting forward the system that's described in this report, but one of them is very much to give the scrutiny function more authority and more status in the process than perhaps might have happened in earlier years. But to do that, not at the expense of audit and scrutiny, but simply to enhance the role, make it more visible, and make sure that the budget proposals, when they emerged, are given a really thorough review with cabinet members, executive board members in front of that scrutiny meeting, and where members are able to obtain answers to any questions they may wish to pose. So that has all been agreed, and the dates for those meetings across the partnership, specifically for East Lindsey, will be in the municipal timetable. I don't have the date with me, but I'm sure it's gone in. And if I can sort of turn to paragraph 6.1, there's a schedule there which kind of sets out the timeline that we are now pursuing. And so in previous years, it's very much been the case that the finance settlement has been received in late December, and that a lot of work has been done at very, very high speed to put together budget reports and proposals that will allow the budget to be agreed. What we've done here is brought forward the whole process markedly. So in June, we asked managers to sit down with their teams and consider the budget pressures that they believed would need to be met in setting the budget for 26-27. In July, we asked them to find cost reductions proposals that could eventually be considered by Cabinet and then by scrutiny on the budget journey. And in August, we set up a star chamber process, which involved chief officers led by the chief executive with myself and other directors, and equally where cabinet members were invited to join those sessions. And those sessions have largely now been completed, one or two to go. So we have made very significant progress so far. So in terms of the schedule of 6.1 in your report, which is on page 55, we have completed item A1 and A2 and A3. B1 is to commence in September. And in terms of audit committee receiving a report on the proposed system, that took place earlier in the year. So B2 is complete also. So we are now working forward from item B3, and in the period ahead, we will see a process of officers now beginning to put together a forecast of what the bottom line of the council will look like, and that process will proceed through the late summer and the early autumn. I do need to draw to your attention a change though in item C3 where it says settlement, because as members will doubtless recall, it has become almost a tradition that the local government finance settlement is produced by government very late in December. Often just before the Christmas break, so it arrives and then everybody goes off for Christmas, leaving accountants to work furiously hard to put the budget papers together for the ensuing process that kicks off in January in terms of the scrutiny review, Cabinet then taking the results of that forward. But this year, the Minister, Jim McMahon, has been very clear that the finance settlement is likely to arrive by late November. Now, I think old war horses such as myself are a little doubtful that that will actually happen, but that is the statement that colleagues in MHCLG have made. And if that's true, we very much look forward to it. And I think also there is quite a lot of opportunity built into this settlement. It has been said by government that this will be a multi-year settlement, and it will be the first time for many years that that has been available to councils. Running large complex organisations that produce services that are of such critical importance to communities on a 12-month basis is not really sensible and really infeasible in terms of doing it really, really well. So that looks set to change. As to the settlement itself, we won't really understand the government's intentions clearly until settlement day. Although, of course, we are expecting before then there to be an autumn budget. I don't think a date has been set for that yet, but possibly in late October. And of course, as usual, there will be some policy steers from government on what it intends to do at that date. And I think it's fair to say that there is a significant amount of uncertainty in the finance settlement this year. A considerable fear, I think, amongst many district councils that they will be disadvantaged through some of the things that government is seeking to do. And also, of course, an awareness amongst all councils that local government review means that effectively a very large number of the authorities in England will cease to exist 2 years from now, more or less. And consequently, there's concern about how that will affect government funding policy. And at this time, I think it's fair to say, although there are various lobby groups that will take different views on aspects of this whole question because it is complex, the common thing is that we really won't know until we see the budget at the end of October. If that remains the government's intention, I would expect it to. And then the settlement. And the good thing, of course, is that we do have some more time. So hopefully accountants can have a better Christmas with it arriving at late November than late December. So all of that will move forward. So once we have the proposals that are being produced, once those have been considered by executive boards, cabinets across the partnership, there will be a process of bringing those to a focus, and a set of budget papers will be produced for the budget scrutiny meetings. Now, what I've suggested on this occasion is that members of the Audit and Governance Committee are invited to that budget scrutiny meeting to give it extra thoroughness and to help the transition between the old system, where Audit and Governance had quite a lot of involvement on reviewing budgets, to a newer system where perhaps the Audit and Governance concern is to make sure that the budget system is sound and to make sure that actually they are assured that the activities that are being undertaken give adequate voice to the different stakeholders in the process, which would include the public through a consultation process. It would include, of course, all members of the council. It would include, importantly, the scrutiny function, which is key to budget setting and making sure that the budget proposals are given an adequate airing and challenge. And so if we step forward to early January, what you would expect to happen is to have a session of anything between 4 and 5 hours where the cabinet members, executive board members present themselves with their senior officers, make presentations around the budget proposals in those service areas, and take questions from the scrutiny panel. That would normally be publicly streamed, so it would be visible to the public online. And it's usual to make arrangements for members of the public to sit in a gallery or whatever, should they wish to do so. And once that's happened, when that event has taken place, all the questions will be recorded. So if they can't be answered on the day, then written responses will be provided. And following that, the scrutiny function is asked to make recommendations to Cabinet in terms of what they've heard. And so it's usual to have a report presented to Cabinet containing as many scrutiny recommendations as you feel is suitable, Chair, such that Cabinet can then receive that and consider which of those recommendations, if any, they wish to accept. And my experience, having operated these sorts of systems for many years, is that actually Cabinets are keen to accept as many scrutiny recommendations as they reasonably can. So I would expect there to be some positive result from that. Following that, having built the impact of those recommendations, if accepted, into the budget proposals, Cabinet then refers the entire suite of budget papers to full council for final approval. And again, I don't have the date at which that will happen in East Lindsey, but it's usually late February or early March. And that clearly is in the municipal timetable. All that said, Chair, I'm very happy to take any questions that members may have on any of that brief. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think I and the committee welcome this paper immensely because it's something we've grappled with for a long while, trying to get a sort of meaningful input into the budget at an early enough stage to influence if necessary, because so often we've had it sort of last minute as a fait accompli almost. So this is a very welcome paper and thank you very much for it. Questions or comments from anybody? Councillor Hesketh.
Microphone.
Very professionally put together document, nice and succinct, very clear. Just a couple of things. Has this new process or this improved process, has it cost any more, or is it actually a lower cost process to go through? That's the first thing. And then just the second one, just a comment really, that the report was written on the 2nd of September, but the table of items and elements really should have been updated to say, I think you said it verbally, that those things were completed. And I think the report should reflect the current situation on the day. That would be useful. Then we can see how well we're progressing through the timetable. But thank you for the report. I think it's a really good piece of work, and I think we can have confidence that we'll be able to get to the nub of some of the issues we want to get to on how to manage the budget. So thank you.
Thank you for that. Anybody else? Councillor Makinson-Saunders.
I want to say a big thank you to Brendan. This is a breath of fresh air.
Absolutely.
We had 1 year when a certain gentleman who is still with this authority didn't have any consultation with us. We didn't have any consultation about the budget. I think you could actually say that the average councillor here is almost local government financially illiterate. I don't think they understand how it works and all the rest of it. And anything that, and it's unfortunate that we're disbanding, but never mind, they'll at least understand it if they go on to something else. But this is breath, it really is a breath of fresh air. We were promised some time ago that in advance of budget, we would have a portfolio holder who to come in and tell us why they were making the recommendations they were. Because I think car parking was one of the issues that it was in Martin Foster's preserve, but no, that never happened either. So really, this skeleton here is something that we should work to in the remaining 3 years that we've got here. So thank you very much indeed. It's very sensible. I think having a scrutiny where we sit and ask questions of the executive board are wonderful. You know, it's really good, isn't it? And we should know the answer. We should know the answers because we have our residents that we need to keep updated and how we're spending our money. And we need to be satisfied because everybody, every one of us councillors has a responsibility for the budget, not just the executive board. And unfortunately, in the past, it seems to have been very much left with the executive, and I don't think that's really particularly democratic. So thank you very much indeed. I'm so glad we employed you to come in and sort us out. That's excellent. And we will stick to this and encourage as many people to get involved as possible. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you. Councillor Kemp did ring me and apologise for not being here this morning. But he is going to make every effort to be there in January, because I think that's the important meeting for him to be at. And he is going to make every effort to be there in January, so that will be good. Okay, anybody else? Sorry. Yeah, question.
Thank you. As Jill said, this is excellent. It's nice to have sort of a plan. It's something I think that we've been asking for quite a while, so it's nice that you've come along and been able to do that for us and create the plan, and hopefully it's going to go well. But can I just ask, item C2 and then D1, is C2 null and void now, because we don't have a December council meeting, I don't think. Full council, it's now just January, isn't it?
Johnson, do you know? Yeah.
Not in the calendar, though, so.
Well, I'll take advice from Democratic Services colleagues on that. The point is that we wanted to identify in this initial plan the opportunities that the different councils would have to make decisions and so forth. So the principle is that for some items of the wider pack, there may be a need for decisions to be taken earlier than January or February. And we wanted to set out in this broad timetable, which was designed for the partnership, that there may be an opportunity in December. Now, if that's not the case in the ELDC, that's not a particular issue. If I may, Chair, just answer one or two of the points that have been made. The table that's there was originally produced for audit and governance and has been in existence for some time. So we didn't want to change the report given that we wanted you to have the same brief that the Audit and Governance Committee had. But the point is that we have indeed got through a number of the actions listed in that table, Councillor Hesketh. And so A1 and A2, A3 and B2 have already been completed, and B1 is about to commence in the period ahead. So we have made progress with this, but I apologise that it wasn't updated in the way that you've suggested. In terms of whether the scrutiny meeting will cost more, there may be some incidental expenses of a very marginal kind, but in no significant way will it cost more than the process that's been used in the past. To pick up, if I may, I think it was Councillor Makinson Sanders' point about car parking and the wish to ask the portfolio holder about these particular issues. That is exactly what the budget scrutiny is designed to achieve. And I should also say that portfolio holders have been briefed on this and have expressed enthusiasm for engaging in this way. So I'm delighted that's the case, and I think it will hopefully satisfy a number of interests and stakeholders on the budget journey. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Councillor Makinson Saunders.
I think coming back here for scrutiny is a good idea, because that has been underdeveloped.
Yeah.
In the overviews role, we do, and audit and governance have a very different role. Yeah. In the budget setting. So governance and stuff, but I think that was a point well made.
Yeah. No. Anybody else? If not, we're asked to note the report, and I think we've done that with enthusiasm, Brendan. So thank you very much indeed, and we'll look forward to that meeting in January.
Thank you, Chair. Members, thank you.
Thank you. You're very welcome to stay, but I'm sure you've got other more pressing things to do. So thank you very much indeed. We'll move on then to item 6, which is the update on cultural and town boards, and I think Amy is having car problems this morning, so instead of being here, she's virtually online. And Amy, are you there?
I am. I managed to make.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
I was
I'm
having
busy.
car-
I was told you were online.
No, I was having car troubles, but I managed to resolve it. So yes. Thank
Oh,
you very
well
much.
done. So,
Oh, that doesn't sound like it's good.
no, it didn't. Busy looking for your picture and it wasn't there. So,
Not really.
over to you, Amy.
Thank you very much for having me today. So I just wanted to present to you an overview of the various boards that we work with within my area, which is Place. I'm the interim manager of the Place team and work under Pranali. I am relatively new, so if you have not seen me before, my name's Amy Beckett, and I've been with the partnership for about 10 weeks now. So apologies if this is the first time you have met me.
There is always a list of starters on the members' point brief of people who are leaving and those who are starting. So we would have been told that you'd started, but we hadn't been able to put a face to a name until this morning. You're very welcome, Amy.
Thank you. So the purpose of my presentation this morning is to give you an overview as to how we meet with the different cultural and town boards, and just to let you know how the wider communities are engaged with the work that we're currently completing within my team, and just to allow for any opportunity for questions around this also. So I wanted to start with an overview of the different groups that we meet with, and this is specifically focused around our market towns. So some of these include our culture board, which has the oversight of the MPO delivery. So our storytellers, which is funded by Arts Council England, and this is supported by officers and attended by members of the public and businesses, as well as councillors. We also have the Lincolnshire World Partnership organisation, and this is specifically around our tourism in the World's area, and focuses on this and our market towns. This is chaired by East Lindsey District Council officers, and forms part of that working group to ensure that we have a really rounded and whole work stream available for each year within the World's area. Furthermore, we also work really closely with the Aviation Heritage Partnership through the tourism team, the Skegness Accommodation Network and Development Group, that's through the tourism team also, our Tourism Officers Group, which is led by the County Council, and is particularly of importance at the moment, as I'm sure you know that the Destination Management Organisation went into administration earlier this year. So we are meeting more regularly as council officers, just to ensure that that is picked up and not neglected. And we also sit within other organisations and groups such as the Community Safety Partnership, Healthy Living Board and the Community Leaders Group also. And I just wanted to highlight, as I just said, Destination Lincolnshire did go into administration around April, May of this year. So in that interim basis, we are currently working really closely with the County Council and other councils across the area. We are ensuring that the work that was picked up by the LVEP, Destination Lincolnshire, is continued, and the team within the partnership are working a way to ensure that that is happening. Some of the work that we're doing as part of that is engaging with the businesses that sit within the visitor economy area, and we are currently developing our own destination management plan, which will have specific action plans that are focused across the 3 areas of the partnership. This is to ensure that we're able to set up and hit the priorities that we had previously said that we would be meeting, and also it gives us a little bit more oversight and ensures that the work that we're completing through that is appropriate for our areas and is going to hit the needs of each of those areas that we're working with. So we'll have specific action plans for East Lindsey, we'll have a specific action plan for Boston, and we'll also have a specific action plan for South Holland. We also sit within Visit Lincolnshire, which is LCC led. And Visit Lincolnshire is a very popular website with tourists, and so it's very important that we continue to work very closely with them. They make part of the monthly meetings that we have as a tourism group across the county, and you can find lots of information about where you can do activities and events during school holidays and outside of school holidays in particular. And finally, within the tourism area, we also have the Visit World's website. And this is overseen by the Wales Partnership Group, and we work very closely with West Lindsey with regards to this website. And it again ensures that we are getting that positive footfall and correlation of that across the area. We are spreading our visits and highlighting and helping tourists recognise that we are more than just the coastal resorts. There is far more to the area than that, and lots to see and do whilst you are visiting. And just to highlight and remind everybody of the different funding programmes that we are using to support with the regeneration and development of the area. I won't go through the list because it is very boring to listen to my voice, and you can also read it, but I will also make sure that you can have a copy of this after. But just to highlight some of these and including in particular the National Portfolio Organisation, which, as I said, is storytellers. And there's some fantastic work coming up over the autumn that the storytellers team are organising. So we'll be making sure to share that with yourselves in our briefings that we do for members, not forgetting some of the summer activities that we have had, including different art installations at the newly opened colonnade. And just to highlight some of the work that we are doing within the market towns, we are responsible for the Vital and Viable programme, and some of the very exciting activities that have taken place in the last quarter includes our teenage markets, which we had up to 22 young traders taking part in our last market in August, which was really exciting. We also had a waiting list of traders to attend. So over the course of the last couple of years, we've really been able to generate a lot of excitement around this market and give young people across the area the opportunity to trial and trade and see if their ideas are possible and can be sort of taken forward as whole sustainable businesses, which is really exciting. We have just seen the end of our summer programme, Arts Aspiration. This was hosted in a number of our market town areas, and we were able to procure artists to take sessions across each of these areas, and they were done in focal central points across the market towns, for instance, and it was a way to generate ideas and excitement around your area and where you live. It was an opportunity for us to understand what young people thought about their spaces, what excited them and what words and meaning came when they thought of the specific areas that they lived in, such as Wainfleet, Rugby and Louth, for instance. So that activity is just coming to an end, and it was a very exciting way to not only seek engagement from our community, but also understand more about what was important to the communities and the residents to help us to ensure that the Vital and Viable programme moving forward is fit for purpose and will continue to engage the residents. Another success that we had over the summer was the Horncastle Horse Fair, which was very well attended again. It is, as I'm sure you know, an annual fair that takes place in Horncastle, and it is something that we have always had excellent community engagement with. We again had reports of very good attendance, and it was well attended by residents and tourists alike. And finally, just to highlight that we continue to work alongside the community team to ensure that our market towns have access to support, to ensure that events are managed and resourced effectively. So some of those include activities across Louth, such as the Food and Drink Festival that is coming up in a couple of weeks. So we work very closely with teams across the partnership to ensure that there is officer time if needed to manage and support these activities across the whole of the area. I just wanted to, I quite like these, very cute, just show you some of the artwork that we have had developed for each of the market towns, highlighting where there are areas of interest, what people might want to look at whilst they are visiting, and sort of highlighting some of the sustainable ways that you can access the area, including different cycle routes, different walks and different events that we have on throughout the year. Just to very quickly go over some of the East Lindsey Investment Fund as well, we have had some very exciting projects come through with the grant schemes. So 48 projects have been supported to date, and we continue to receive applications for these. As you can see, we have had just over £630,000 awarded, and we have just over £250,000 remaining to allocate. The final round for this does close in October, so if people are interested, there is still time to get applications in and talk to officers if they have any questions. We continue to make investment into our communities, and this is done via grants and match funding, which has seen up to £1 million of investment made across the whole of the East Lindsey area. And we also have our £1 million worth of Pride in Place grants, and that is being launched in September. So that is something that we're very excited about across the directorate. Furthermore, we have had lots of community development. We have engaged with over 170 residents to ensure that they are digitally included. So ensuring that we do not have that digital poverty that can be seen in areas of the country still, and supporting them to become confident with the use of digital accessibility. There is currently the recruitment of 3 communities and events officers, which is very exciting. That goes back to working with our areas, as I just said in the previous slide, and being able to fully support our community groups and our residents with their events that they have taken place across each of our area. And it ensures that we are able to help them future-proof any events that they are currently looking to start or take over, ensuring that they have done all of their due diligence, they understand how to financially plan for future years for events and activities, etc. So that is really exciting. We're giving that responsibility back to our communities and ensuring that they are set up for future years. Furthermore, we have been able to award £45,000 through the Civic Crowdfunding Scheme, and that is going to be launched in September. And we also have maps being designed to support with our mental health support across the communities. So there will be 5 different hubs that are available, and they're being designed and developed, and it will be really nice to share them when they are finalised. I won't go through all of this because I know that there is a lot, and I'm very sorry that I'm giving you a little bit of death by PowerPoint, but just to highlight some of the really exciting things that are happening within tourism and events. We awarded a £1 million grant to the Woodlands Trust to purchase ancient woodland and to protect this. We were able to allocate funding to ensure that we had a whole summer of activity in the colonnade. There has been work done to ensure that the Atlantis Alliance has taken place, the multi-agency hub, to increase the safety of residents and tourists alike during high season. And we are also currently looking at how we are able to better promote our place. So not only talking about why it is such an exciting and varied place to visit, but we're also looking at a number of different content ideas to promote the place. These include bring your dog on holiday and where is dog friendly areas, for instance, which we will be procuring later on this year. And we do also continue with the support of the Lincolnshire World's Outdoor Festival, which is a 2-week festival and really highlights all of the very exciting things that you can do across the area. Including this year, you were able to cycle on Cadwell Park, which I don't think has ever been done before. So that is very exciting. Furthermore, we are having a look at how we continue to support our heritage and conservation, including the funding that we have been able to draw in from external funding sources to support with the continued refurbishment of Spilsby House, for instance, the Alfred Manor Trust and Alfred Windmill as well. In parallel to this, we are also commissioning a skills study to understand where there are skills gaps and skills needs, not only from the colleges and our higher and further education places, but from businesses as well. It's really important for us to understand where our businesses feel that there are skills gaps and how we can support our education provision to fill these needs. We are currently planning for the NPO future. So storytellers, we have been awarded funding for 26-27. So we're just about to start looking at how we commission the work to ensure that we still have a very whole and exciting round of opportunities and offers, including extending the light waves, for instance. And our tourism offer, has been brought in-house following the administration of the LVEP. So as you can see, we are currently taking over responsibility of managing all of the websites that hit our area. We're making sure that there is social media available, and we are marketing our space as effectively as possible. And it is also just to note that there was an all members briefing earlier on this year with regards to the work that we are doing within the tourism offer. And if anybody needs to see a copy of that, please let me know and we can get that reshared. And that is the end of my presentation. I'm sorry it was a bit of a whistle-stop tour, but if anyone has any questions.
Thank you. That was extremely interesting and comprehensive, Amy. Thank you for that. I've got one question that probably you're not going to be able to answer, but you mentioned the conservation area, leaflets, etc. Well, the appraisals of the conservation areas. We have actually been waiting for a long time now for that work to be completed, because I think it must be a year ago we were told that the work was about to go out to consultation, and I haven't seen that, and we haven't seen it here in Horncastle yet. So it's probably not fair to ask you the question, because it's probably not your department, but perhaps we can highlight that as an action, Laura, so that we find out where we're at with the conservation area appraisals, because they were all due for consultation some considerable time ago now. And Councillor Meckinson Sanders is agreeing with me on that, so I'm sure I've got that right. Well, the Horncastle one was due for consultation, it must be a year ago actually, if not more now. So can I leave that one with you? Thank you. Right, questions or comments, everybody? Councillor Watson.
Yeah, thank you. Very interesting report, very fulsome. Shows what a marvellous offer we have in this area. Very delighted here that you're in place, and we're going to improve things even more. Just a couple of things I'd like to pick up on that I caught in your report. One was Alford Windmill. You did mention something about that. I wonder if you could enlarge on that a little. I thought it was pretty much dead in the water, but it sounds like it might not be now. Second thing was, you mentioned the tourism offer has been brought in-house within our own offices. How is that actually going to work with Visit Lincolnshire, which is the county council run operation? Are we both covering the same area? You know, how much? To me, Lincolnshire is a marketable item when it comes to tourism. I'm not sure East Lindsey is particularly marketable. You know, Lincolnshire as a concept strikes me as being much more attractive, possibly. But I'd like comments on both those things, please.
Thank you. Shall I take 2 or 3 speakers and then come back to you, Amy, if that's okay? Because I've got Councillor Hesketh and Councillor Arnold want to speak. So, Councillor Arnold.
Thank you. Yeah, very detailed report. I just wondered, and I don't know if I have missed this, and I apologise if I have. You talked about the mental health hubs. Can you just give me a bit more detail on that? And I was actually going to bring up the windmill situation, but that's already been dealt with, because I thought that was dead in the water too. So yeah.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Hesketh, do you want to?
Yeah, thank you. First of all, maybe I just don't understand, but why isn't this printed and in the document? That's the first thing. That maybe the chair, you could answer that, because there's a heck of a lot of information in there, and you know, I did have a couple of hours this weekend, and I could have had a dig into there. So, and I've never understood what place is. I think the general public has no idea what place is. It looks like it is tourism grants and events. Interacting with the public, saying I've just been to a thing on place, They would think I've been to the Grimsby Fishing Heritage Museum or something. But besides that, just so a couple of specific things. I'd really like something that says for each of these groups of us, we're spending a lot of our time going to these things and taking part of them. And I have no idea whether we get impact and what level of impact we have from them. So I'd really value something, but welcome to the organisation. I'm sure you'll deliver it for us. Are we getting value for money for these things? Because every minute we spend on this, we could have spent doing something else on public service. And I think it's important for us to focus on that. You know, are they value for money? What are the 3 priorities for each of these, either activities or committees that we sit on, and things like that? So one example, in the £18,000 arts initiative, you know, for me, I don't know how many people are going to get involved in arts, but let's say it's 20 quid a head. I'm expecting 900 people to be taking part in that. And I think that would be very exciting. If we end up with 50, I really think we need to question the value for money for some of the things we're taking part in, but I'm looking forward to the report on that. And the final one is the civic crowdfunding scheme. Why are we putting money into that when there's already a Space Hive initiative for crowdfunding? Sorry, lots of questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'll answer the one about why the report wasn't on the agenda. It wasn't available when we had to print and publish the agenda, which is why it wasn't on the agenda. But we can make sure that the slides and the presentation now go out to everybody in the members' point brief. That I think would be a good thing to do, Amy, if we could do that so that everybody could see it. Just before I bring Amy back in, I think Councillor Marsh wants to come in.
I can just give some depth to some of the questions that's been raised. Why arts? And we could be putting this money into services. Well, one of the cornerstones of what this council believes in is the economy and getting better jobs. Jobs mean people will be employed and be happier and all the rest of it. A lot of these are designed to show, particularly young people, how they can get in on arts and culture and develop individual businesses themselves and go forward rather than thinking they have to move away. Some of these funds are match funded by Arts Council England, and we are committed to bringing their money in. And for our NPO, I think it's £1 million a year. So we are match funding what is already coming in. So I think we're getting good value for money. And I'm trying to think of something else you brought up, and I thought, I can't think what it was now. You said, can you just rattle through? Yeah, I mean, the fact is that when they put an event on, if they only get 100, that'll be good because it's 100 people coming in talking about it, and it's not just that money for that one event. It's what it casts out afterwards. And a good example of that, and Robert, you want to latch up with this one because this is Prenali's to my C about Vintage Sutton, the carnival and the work that's done through the MPO. It brings in good crowds, good holidaymakers, and things for the locals to revitalise and generate your local place. And your place is where you live and your identity to where you live. And yes, it is a bit wordy, but I can't think of a better word to say it and say, this is my place. This is place. It's where I live, my area.
I mean, I can only comment on the horse fair in Horncastle, which was a highly successful, several thousand people I think we had through. I know I was on duty in church, which was part of it, of the celebrations, and we had 600 odd people through on a Saturday morning, which is many times more than we would normally have had through. But I sat with a clicker and counted them, so I know there were over 600 that morning through just part of it, and we weren't actually in the centre of everything that was going on. So there were a lot of people involved. Before I go back to Amy, Councillor Makinson Saunders, did you want to, and then Councillor Jones?
That bursts the balloon, don't you?
Have to what? Sorry?
You have to have somebody that bursts the balloon.
Yes.
I have to say, I think what you've come up with, we've all been doing for years. Vital and Viable has bypassed Louth. It's been a complete and utter disaster. Louth has been left out from so much of it. We have a conservation area that has been at risk for 25 plus years. You know, I could sit down, I could go through half the things that you came up with on there and actually say, You justify that to me, because I ain't getting it in Louth, and I'm Louth born and bred, and I know how it works. And I'm sorry, but the whole thing to me is a joke. I actually did join in the Arts Creative in Louth because I knew the girl that was running the stall. I acted as a whipper in to get people to come and make tiles, which are going to be put somewhere in Louth. Well, people were just saying to me, so what? Why is the council wasting money on this? You know, it's just, you know, it's, where's the value for money? I sorted out getting a tourism, because we closed our tourism office. I sorted out a little bit going into the St James's Church, which I think your department has claimed that they did when it was me, because I went and sat down with the vicar and sorted it out. You can't even bother to keep all the leaflets up to date. I think we are bypassing Louth. We've got a huge selling thing, and we might as well just do it ourselves. I'm really disappointed, and we are proud of our place. We have got so much to offer, and we do get tourists, but I don't think we are getting a fair bite of the cherry from the council. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
Well, I think that's a little bit unfair to ask somebody who's been with us 8 weeks.
Well, it probably is. But she's still getting paid by my ratepayers.
Okay.
And she can take this back to that department, because we are let down by them.
I think that would be a fairer thing
Yeah.
to do, really, rather than attack somebody who's
No,
only been
it's
with us 8 weeks. No, it isn't, Amy, and please don't
No.
take that personally.
Can I just respond, because this comes time and time again. If I had my way, I wouldn't print any leaflets, because as soon as you print them the next day,
Well, walk leaflets on.
they're out. They're out of date, out of time, and they're incorrect. And as for going round, filling up all these little racks with what's happening in your area. Yeah, well, so you should. It's your area.
Yeah.
It cost a fortune for an officer to go around visiting every church, every village hall, every this, every that, putting half a dozen leaflets in. If you want them, you put the bloody things in.
Yeah.
We do.
Okay, okay. I'm not having a personal argument, thank you. I'm going to go to Councillor Jones, who had something he wanted to ask.
Yeah, it's a lot more simple.
Good.
It's regarding
Good.
the Woodland Trust. I see we spent £1 million on an ancient wood. Where is it, please? And does the public have access because we've bought it?
I would think it's well, it was, yeah, okay.
It's just outside Louth. Yeah.
Okay.
And it will be open to the public, and we are improving access to it, as well as cleaning out a lot of the unnative species, the ferns and that, and replanting it with proper British trees. But it's owned by the Woodland Trust and cost an awful lot more than our £1 million. And we thought it was a really good legacy to leave for the people of East Lindsey, but particularly the Louth and that area up there, for them to get into the countryside and have a whole new experience there.
Yeah, well, Louth has now got a wood. We ain't got one at Stickney.
There's no wood there to buy.
Okay, we're not having an argument about who's got what, thank you. No. That's been going on for 50 years and we're not continuing it this morning. So thank you for that. Amy, as far as you can, and we don't expect you to answer some of those points, but is there anything you'd like to comment on?
Yep, so with regards to the windmill, I will go and double check my facts. I do want to
Okay, well, is that all right if Councillor Marsh gives us, right, would you like to update us on the windmill?
Negotiations are a very delicate stage. The county council decided they wanted to dispose of some of their assets, which is the same as what most councils are doing. The windmills are one of them, and I'd say it plural. They are happy to speak to any interested body, and I understand that there is an interested body going to come forward, and also some things I know that I can't say because I've been sworn secrecy because it hasn't been released to the public yet, but there are other things, and as it stands, the county council don't have the money and not prepared to put the money in for the repair it. That's why they want to sell it. But I do know there's one person who's prepared to take the windmill on and at his expense repair it, but it will need some support to repair the outbuildings that we already had the money for to make it a viable proposition. And the intention of this particular person is that he would put the Windmill Trust in charge of operating it, and he would work commercially the other buildings. And that's as much as I can tell you because it's still very much floating about.
Thank you for that. Okay, that's given us an update on the windmill. Is there anything else, Amy, you'd like to comment on?
Yep, I'd just like to comment on the work with Visit Lincolnshire and working with the County Council. So yes, Visit Lincolnshire is a much wider remit and it does have excellent traction. What we want to do is we want to ensure that we are still continuing to support our areas as best we can. So we would have been funding the Destination Management Partnership, so the LVET that went into administration. So rather than just leaving all of those projects and that really exciting opportunity that we had to continue developing up our ideas and our tourist opportunities. And tourism is not just about bringing people to our area. Tourism is micro tourism as well. It's about being able to get people excited about visiting the town next to them or going across borders. So bringing people from like Boston up here also. So when I talk about tourism, I am talking about residents and visitors. But it gives us that opportunity to ensure that we are continuing with those projects and it makes sure that we are able to continue to promote our area as best we can. And we have that responsibility and that autonomy to shout for ourselves rather than it sort of sitting secondary with the county council. So we will continue to do that work. We will get really good traction with it. My team are really excited about the opportunities that they have and the way that we can bring forward some of those projects internally now rather than them being in the offshoot with the LVEP. With regards to the mental health hubs, I do want to go away and get more information and clarity. I don't want to give you inaccurate information, so I will come back to you on that. The crowdfunding also, I know that's part of the ELIF funding, so I just want to double check how that works with the other crowdfunding opportunities we have. And just to confirm that as part of the Vital and Viable programme, there is a whole programme of delivery for all of the market towns. So I can go away and get that action plan for you as well, just to highlight where we are doing that work and what is coming up as well. Obviously, we're coming to that time of year where we will be future planning for the next financial year also. So it will be good to get your input and understand how we can better support that area and ensure that it doesn't feel like it's being left out, because that's not something I want as my legacy whilst working here. So yeah, thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you for that. Councillor Hesketh.
Yeah, just I take the point. We've got some really successful things that have gone on. You know, the horse fair and the thing in Sutton, absolutely fantastic. I just think that we need to be honest and report what do we get value for money. And if we don't get value for money, we tried it, stop it or put the money somewhere else. And that's what I'd like to see in the reports that you give and say, this worked, this didn't. We should put more emphasis on this or on that. You know, I've just run a village flower show on a Sunday where we had 190 entries. Yeah. And it'd be great to be able to collect all those great things that are happening and put it into the mix. So I'm just agreeing, let's be honest and report back what's working and what's not when you do your reports as we go forward. And that includes committees as well. If you think we should get out of them, get out of them.
Yeah, okay.
So with regards to that, we are coming up to our annual report for the storytellers. So our Arts Council funded programme that Councillor Marsh mentioned, where we match fund the £1 million a year. So we can share the report and show the success. I would like to note that that does only highlight the programme of delivery for the MPO, and if there are other programmes of delivery that you're interested in that are managed by community organisations, we can obviously have a look at how we can draw all of that data in and understand how that's having a positive correlation on footfall and spend in each area.
I think it would probably be a good idea if once that annual report's published that we add that to our work programme to look at here so that we can see. The only thing I would add is it would be good if your team could always let the local ward members know what's happening in their wards, because we don't always know what's going on. And sometimes we're wrong-footed when somebody asks us about something and we don't know what's been happening. So it would be good to just emphasise really that please, if people could let us know as local ward members, then we can help actually. We can help publicise and let other people and parish councils that we all visit know what's going on too. The last word, Councillor Makinson Saunders.
Can I ask why we are paying out for mental health hubs? Why isn't the Mental Health Trust doing that? And can we have some more information
Well-
about it? Because I think I think we all have issues with things like that.
I think while I assumed that the mental health people were contributing as well, it wasn't something we were funding ourselves totally, but that we were contributing towards. Because I mean, you know, sorry, it is an important issue. Is that right, Amy? Have I assumed?
Yeah, I will, I'll go away and get further information and clarity on how that's been supported and the partnership that's working around that, just to come back to you.
That would be
Does
helpful.
that fit in with what communities are actually doing? Because we are supporting people with mental health issues. Why are we having hubs to do exactly what our communities are doing? I just don't get it.
Well, I think it's about coordinating what communities are doing, isn't it? Really, you know. But Amy's going to get us some further information, and we can forward that to all committee members and get it put in the members' point brief as well, because as many people have access to the information as possible. Okay, thank you very much, Amy. I'm sorry that's been a bit of a baptism of fire for you this morning, so, but we are grateful for the work you're doing. Yeah, we're all on your side. Thank you very much. We'll move on then to item 7, which is the workforce report. And Rachel, do you want to come and join us, or are you happy there?
Are you happy? I've got it up on the screen.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair. Good morning, members. So you may recall that I joined you in June and I gave you a really long, in-depth presentation. So I'm hopeful that you might be quite pleased that it's going to be a little bit more succinct this time and just kind of concentrate on the headlines. I was conscious that nobody had been for quite a while, so that's why it was such a big one last time. So this update is based on the Q1 data for 25-26. So just in terms of the key headlines then, so when we look at a comparison, so we're looking at the Q1 data, if we look at that as comparison to the previous quarter's data, we have seen some small improvements in sickness absence rates. We have seen some recruitment efficiency and overall turnover during Q1, some stability around that. What I'm going to do is just very briefly share headlines for sickness turnover and retention and recruitment, and then just update on the current interventions. So sickness absence, so the overall sickness absence decreased slightly, so 0.25%, so very slightly compared to Q4. When we look at long-term absence, that's remained at 67%. So that's fairly typical when we look at absence overall, for 2/3 of it to be long-term and 1/3 of it to be short-term. And as it says there, that aligns with national trends. I know you were just speaking about it more in the community, but mental health in Q1 was the leading cause of absence. It accounted for 28.7% of the absence within Q1. The majority of that was recorded as non-work related. And then we had musculoskeletal issues was the second most common cause within Q1. If we move over to turnover and retention, so turnover did decrease by 2.62% when we compare it to Q4. The year-to-date turnover is 3.43%, and that's made up of voluntary turnover with 2.45%. I think I explained the difference between voluntary turnover and then a kind of whole turnover before, but if you want another update on that, I'm happy to do that. Retirement and resignation for other reasons were the most common reasons for leaving. I will come back to that resignation for other reasons when we get to the interventions. And one of the things I updated you on last time, as part of the reasons for leaving, we've incorporated one for local government reorganisation. So that's one for us monitoring now. And there's been no notable increase in leavers following those announcements and the kind of continued work around that. If we look at recruitment, so the average time to hire reduced to 22 days from 38 days when that was in Q4. That's one of the key metrics that HR will look at as part of that, because it's the speed in which we are recruiting now in, forgive me, what is an ever fickle recruitment market. So that is a really good sign for us to see that that's come down. Just kind of some headline figures. So 21 roles were advertised within Q1 for 28 vacancies. So there was maybe one role that was for one role advertised, maybe a loader, for example, but there was 3 vacancies within it. We received 341 applications. So that's on average about 12 to 13 applications per post. Obviously that will fluctuate depending on what the role is. I've added in there the withdrawal rate. It's 6.7, and whilst that's not a particularly high rate, what we do recognise is that that can be something that's really frustrating for the recruitment managers while they're trying to get through this process and do it at speed. What I will say though is, whilst we do have that withdrawal rate, the majority of the time it comes at the point of they've submitted an application. By the time they've done the shortlisting and go out to invite people and whatnot, that's when they've often kind of withdrawn and said, oh, I'm not really interested, or I've got another job, or find something else. So again, the speed is what's important there, but also what we're encouraging managers now is that pre-screening calling and making sure that they're doing that. And then just to add in there as well, this isn't an East Lindsey specific one, obviously it's across the partnership, but during Q1 we recorded that of those vacancies, there was 8 that had internal career progression. So we're just as a thing there to support that we have career development. So just to kind of look on the key interventions. So if we look at those top 3 ones rather, they're around sickness absence. So linking back to those musculoskeletal issues, we're pretty good at kind of pushing forward early interventions when it comes to mental health. When we've got now the day 1 interventions, we've probably not been as good as what we could be around physical health. Now that is particularly in manual roles. So we're ensuring that we're pushing more when absence is being reported with managers to look at what the options might be around early interventions. We are continually doing work around mental health training. Built in with our training plan for this financial year is further support, further guidance for managers around managing mental health. And we're doing a piece of work at the moment, which we're just finalising, which is updating the return to work guidance again. A key measure for managing absence well is doing those return to works after every absence. And that's kind of looking beyond just the fact that they've been completed, but doing a review of the quality of those meetings that have happened. The final kind of 4 are around recruitment and retention. So as I just said earlier, is the tracking of the local government reorganisation for a reason for leaving, pushing the participation in exit interviews so that we can improve the data quality that we've got to be able to make some recommendations about what's coming forward through that. Also ensuring that managers, again, just what I just spoke about, are confirming a candidate's availability and doing pre-screening rather than kind of somebody submits something and they don't hear anything at all until it's, would you like to come for an interview? And that again is reducing hopefully the withdrawal rates. And then also the last one there is ensuring that we are continually promoting the benefits of working with the council and also the wider partnership during all aspects of the recruitment process, and particularly as well at the interviews. So they are just the key headlines, Chair. So I'm happy to stop there, if that's okay, and open it for any comments or questions.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Rachel. Very comprehensive. Councillor Arnold.
Thank you. Just a couple of things I'd like a bit of information on, and I don't know if the first one I want to talk about, I don't know if it's actually from your role, but I'm going to bring it up again that we are not providing, or not that I can see, any apprenticeships for our local people. As one of the main employers in some of our coastal areas, There is government schemes for people to do degrees, level 4 upwards, and it is shameful that we are not offering it. So I would like to know from the workforce team why that is. If you go on the government website, you can go and train to be a dental nurse or a commie chef in local pubs here in Horncastle, but the big employer in Horncastle offers 0. So I'd like to know why that is. I know this is something that I brought up before, but we should be encouraging the local people from our area to really want to grow this business, and we're not doing so, and that is a massive shame. It scares me, the mental health number that you're sharing. I am aware that, you know, that the knock-on of service provision externally can have an effect, you know, on what provision is available. We, as a council and a partnership, signed up to the White Ribbon, and part of that service is support for people's mental health as well. So I'd like to know whether that's been looked into. And yeah, a bit more information is, you know, when you talk about multiskeletal issues, is that, you know, in the whole of the workforce? Is it particularly on the manual service jobs, and what investigation work and policies are put in place to support that? Thanks.
Okay, I'm a bit surprised to hear you say there were no apprenticeships, because there are in PSPS at any rate. And Rachel, do you want to answer some of those?
Yeah, so if you look in today, there's nothing, there's no specific kind of one that's been advertised today. So myself and my assistant director, James Gilbert, we've been recently meeting with Brendan and also with Rob after a discussion at senior leadership team about the number of recruitments, not just in East Lindsey for apprentices, but across the partnership. What we've agreed as part of the vacancy management process, so any role, and that's part of prudent, obviously, budget management now, as part of any role coming forward for being looked at advertising, James and I are now also part of the kind of scrutiny of those vacancies coming forward to provide that challenge to say, is there a reason why this either isn't an apprentice role or a trainee role or that kind of stuff? So that has been something that's now started to be implemented. So I would hope that those, whilst like I said, there isn't something today that's an apprenticeship, I do know that there's some coming through the system. One of the other things I will say as well is that whilst they're already existing employees, we do have a high number of our employees that are doing higher level apprenticeships. So when I say higher level, that's starting at level 4. So level 2 and 3 is where we tend to say the kind of traditional apprenticeships, and we have them across environmental health, building control, we have some in housing, we have people within planning. So we are looking at more broader ones rather than those traditional kind of customer service or business admin one. So there is quite a bit of work around that. We do have an academy and talent lead within the organisation whose focus is very much on apprentices. It's on work experience, so there's been a lot of work with the careers advisors along with our local schools. So we made a commitment of 1,000 hours work experience across our apprenticeship, across our partnership colleges. And the last time I checked that with the Academy and Talent Lead, we'd hit 700 hours within the last 9 months, I believe it was. So there's been a real focus about work experience. We also have examples where, so Roxanne, obviously who you all know very well, she's going to have some people from the University of Lincoln shortly who are doing a geography undergraduate degree, and they're coming in and doing particular projects. So it's good for them as part of them completing their degree, but also they come in and do specific projects with us. There's one around levelling up, and I can't remember what the other one is, but I'm sure Roxanne will always update you. And they're going to be joining us in the next couple of weeks for I think it's a 12-week period, 1 day a week. So we're trying to look at different ways that we can retain people within our area and really looking at those entry-level jobs. In terms of the mental health numbers, whilst it doesn't necessarily make us feel any better, one thing that we are clear of is that we are kind of in line and actually just a little bit below national trends. And you obviously made the comment as well about we support people who are having problems with mental health in a backdrop of a society that's also struggling to support them with them, which is why we've put a lot of effort in that early interventions to the extent that we can do in terms of our employee assistance programme, working with Maximus, which is through the DWP, which is up to a 9-month programme, which is really focused on keeping people within work. So there is some work that is happening. I will always say there is always more that we can do. I've just learnt about potentially some hubs that might be coming in. So again, that's scribbled that down, and it will always be something that we're interested. Again, with the information that we provide to employees in terms of the different support that's out there. So you just mentioned one to do with, was it the white ribbon one, yeah, stuff like that. So again, we have a group of mental health first aiders across our partnership who are meet regularly to kind of say, okay, did you know about this service? Let's make sure that our staff know about these as well, because there are stuff coming on kind of all the time. And then the final question was just around the musculoskeletal. So that's quite a broad ranging kind of headline, if you like, to kind of pick as a reason. It can cover back problems. Sometimes it covers people post-operative. It is across the organisation, but you won't be surprised that predominantly where it becomes prevalent and causes absence is more in our manual roles, because somebody who's perhaps who's struggling with a backpack but is able to get up and move around and do kind of stuff like that in more of a sedentary position probably doesn't need absence or time off as what somebody who's maybe humping and dumping bins and kind of that kind of stuff. So we do see it more prevalent in there, which is why we, through our age friendly ambassador stuff, we're looking at the midlife MOTs and speaking with Vic Burgess, the assistant director, about, okay, how do we get in earlier, because we need to get in even earlier than what we are now. And I know this isn't always going to solve the problems, but okay, where else could we potentially redeploy these individuals across our wide partnership now? But I say that in the backdrop that not everybody within those types of role wants to go and sit in front of a computer and may find that more stressful. So yeah.
Okay, I have to say, I mean, as an authority, we've had a good record of apprentices over the years. I mean, I can remember James Gilbert starting with East Lindsey as an apprentice many years ago now. And actually Corey was an apprentice with PSPS, I remember, and left the organisation and has come back. So, I mean, Corey's a good example, I think, as well, of as having sort of developed talent in-house over the years. So we have had a good record. We may not be that we've got any posts today advertised, but it's something that we have encouraged over a lot of years.
So just coming back on the apprenticeship, I've been watching it for a few weeks because obviously we've got the children, young people who have just finished their A-levels, and with the new government scheme where they're actually paid to do a degree rather than, you know, like the apprenticeship, the old YTS as we would remember it, on a lower level. The new apprenticeship schemes offers in line wages as what you would get in that job. Perhaps we could have some data about it then. And I absolutely agree with current staff have the ability to go on and do their level 4, 5, 6, 7, whatever. But I just want to see what we're actually offering. The post 16 or the post A level opportunities for our young people differ right across the partnership. For children along that coastal area, it is very difficult to find the right job because of where we are located. And what happens is that people move to, you know, the bigger cities to go, and then they don't come back. And that then, you know, we have the struggle where we're losing people because we don't have those facilities. You know, I mean, in Mablethorpe alone, we have a massive high demographic of older people because we're losing our young families. So I'd like some data on it.
Yeah, I know Rachel is very aware and has worked for many years on that particular area. to be honest, Councillor Arnold. Councillor Hesketh, I think you were next.
Thank you. Thank you for your
My-
report. It's excellent because it's very simple. We all understand what's happening. Just a couple of points I would like to make. At the beginning, you show that we've improved our turnover rates. It'd be nice if we knew from what to what, rather than just the percentage decline. Because when I compare it to page 109 in the reports pack, it doesn't seem to, the numbers seem different than what you put on your presentation. Because I was concerned that turnover was running just over 14%, I think. So if you brought it down by 2 and a bit, 3%, that's terrific, closer to 10. So that's the first thing. The second is that I didn't see anything on I used to go on Faces to Watch, talent. It's so important that we identify those who are in the organisation who are talented. I briefly got into this category in my career, but soon became a journeyman. But it'd be nice to identify and track those people who think could go to higher up in their own group or take a wider responsibility. I think it's probably one of the key issues for many organisations is how do we develop talent?
And we do that, actually. We have a Future Leaders programme that, I mean, I've been and spoken to, and we've got somebody who's on it, I think, at the back this morning, talking to us, or listening to us, rather.
It's just so we have a nice, encouraging report about if we're on track, we're doing it. That it'd be nice to.
I think actually it would be good if Rachel could do us a paragraph or two on the Future Leaders programme, because it's been running, I know, for quite a lot of years, and Rachel's done some superb work on it. So perhaps for a future meeting, Rachel, you could give us a couple of paragraphs on that.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. And if you ever want to have a separate chat, I can bore you for hours on we've got Future Leaders, we've got Impact, which Councillor Martin joined us on for our senior managers. And we've also just about to implement an early careers for anybody 25 and under across our organisation. That's kicking off in November. So I did bore everybody last time with that, but I'll bore you.
You don't need to bore it. It was just, I always used to have a saying, if it's on the chart, it's in your heart. So if we just mention it,
I can guarantee that it's very much in Rachel's heart. She puts a lot of time and effort into it and does an excellent job. Anybody else? Councillor Meckinson-Saunders?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Thank you, Rachel, for that. It was my suggestion that we should have these reports come here because it's always a good part of the agenda at PS2. And for those in this committee that don't know, it's PS2 that actually do look after our HR, and Rachel is our girl on the ground in East Lindsey, and what a wonderful job she does do. And then we've got every support for you. See, I'm not always nasty about everything. I thought it was quite amusing to promote the benefits of working with the council partnership during interviews. I've done some senior manager interviews recently, and actually nobody mentioned that. So perhaps there's a training need in the upper echelons of our society here. I think the mental health thing, I've been approached by quite a few members of staff because I've got a kind of listening ear, I suppose, and I think some mental health training goes in one ear and out the other for some of our managers. Some of the horror stories I've heard some really sad bullying stories recently, and some really sad stories about women who have got long-term problems, who have not been treated very kindly at all by assistant directors, but I'm not going to mention any names. Where are all our vacancies? Where are these vacant? I know finding accountants is extremely difficult, so trying to encourage people to come in with or to train to do that, because local government accountancy is quite difficult, and I imagine planning is quite difficult to attract people. Are there any glaring?
I mean, environmental health used to be
that's true.
Always used to be a difficult recruitment area as well.
Yeah,
and planners and I mean most professional roles across the organisation actually.
And I did wonder if local government reorganisation, you say it's not making much difference, but perhaps it is underneath it all. Initiatives that we could follow, giving our members of staff flu jabs and things. So I don't know if that comes from you or if it comes from HR, because I'm still a bit dubious of who's responsible, where one responsibility stops and another one starts. And it's a huge number of people with prostate cancer, and I just don't know why. We're worrying about women and the menopause. Why aren't we worrying more about men and prostate cancer? Because we could have somebody come here and do tests, you know, councillors and members of staff. And I know there are some champions within the council who would probably bend your ear about that, but I thought they would be quite good initiatives to forward as well. But thank you, Rachel. I'm glad you've come, and I think we should be having staff reports. Staff are our most valuable asset, and I think it's been an oversight that we haven't. But thank you very much for what you do.
Okay, well, when we get to the work programme later on, perhaps you can indicate how often you'd like Rachel. Obviously, we don't want you every meeting, Rachel, because that would be a burden on you. But how often?
Quarterly or something.
Yeah.
Was that?
Okay.
Would that suit you?
Yeah. Okay. Is there any of those questions you'd like to pick up on, Rachel?
Probably just a couple of things. So on the flu jabs, yeah, it's a combination of working with PSPS, so they'll come and approach us and say, look, we're going to be ordering some vouchers. Our side obviously do the communication and the encouragement and the time to go and take those vouchers. You referenced about prostate cancer and obviously the talk of menopause. We have had quite a lot of work around menopause, and we've seen the activity and we've seen the response, the positive response from staff around that. This is where a lot of our work programs kind of coexist in a way. So you've obviously seen me as well, also coming to talk to you about the ED&I strategy and the action plan. And within that as well is encouraging groups. So things like when we look more and have more of a focus about men's health. What I will say, and I don't want to be stereotypical, it's a harder group to go and talk to, but it's not one that obviously we will give up on and try and push that kind of information through. In terms of the comment about the pushing of the benefits and stuff like that, we have our senior managers conference coming up later this month. One of the sessions that we had last year was about recruitment and thinking differently and being more proactive in the way that we're doing it. Aileen is going to be joining us again and doing another session on recruitment again, just to really kind of bring home the message of how important the recruitment and getting that right is. In terms of
those councillors that need councillors that need the encouragement to do it, not necessarily managers.
Yeah. And then, sorry, there was just one for Councillor Arnold, who's just kind of rejoined us and whatnot. You made the comment about the changes with apprenticeships and the levy and stuff like that. Obviously, as an individual, I'm really pleased that they've made some of these changes because it means it's less restrictive and there's broader options. One of the things that we are finding, though, is we're learning as we're going, so they're making the announcements, but actually some of the providers are struggling to kind of keep up and make the changes. But we are working with a lot of the local ones that we have, because we've got some good long-standing relationships with them. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you for that. Again, very interesting, and we'll make sure that those slides go out to everybody here and on members' point brief as well, because I think that's, you know, something that everybody will be interested in. And thank you very much, Rachel, for all your hard work. Much appreciated. We're going to move on. It's just turned 11:30. I want to try and do the next two items on the agenda if we can before 12. I do intend to have a break at 12. We haven't ordered lunch, but I'm conscious it's a long agenda. The sandwich van comes at 12, so if anybody wants to buy a sandwich, we'll have a 5-minute break at 12 o'clock. So we'll try and do the next two items.
10.
Yeah.
There wasn't a meeting in August, so
no,
that was some time.
Yeah, no, I'm aware of that. Okay, thank you. So thank you, Rachel. We're now on item 8, which is an update on digital content and communication. And we have got Lewis Richardson and Amy Housen from PSPS. Amy, we're pleased to see you here this morning. So do you have a presentation you wish to make?
I'll just
Okay.
put it on the screen for you.
Lovely. Over to you then.
Okay, so my name's Lewis Richardson. Thank you for inviting me to this. And this is a presentation on my job as a digital content advisor on improving digital experience across the council services. Okay, so just an overview about what we'll be going over today. So I'll be talking a bit about me, role overview and my key objectives, what I've done so far, what I've got planned, and looking ahead with a bit of your input. Okay, so just to start off a bit about me. So I previously worked as a customer contact advisor for PS. Oh yeah, cool.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Is that a bit better?
Yeah, that's
There you go.
lovely. Thank you. Thank you, Lewis.
So yeah, a bit about me. So I previously worked as a customer contact advisor for PSPS. This allowed me to deal with customers' needs and frustrations firsthand, enabling me to bring a customer first mindset to digital transformation. I'm now working as a digital content advisor for PSPS across the partnership, with my full focus on improving online services across each of the client websites. A bit of a role overview and the key objectives of my role. So I begin with analysing customer contacts demand across all departments. So I'll look at which departments have the most contacts and which ones have the least. This will then allow me to use Google Analytics, which is a piece of software, to assess the website performance of these areas. Once I've analysed both the demand on the websites and in the contact centre, I'll then be able to make recommendations to improve the web pages. So this is where I'll discuss them with service managers to get their approval. And then I will, once they've been agreed and approved, I'll then talk to the web editors in order to get the changes done as quick as possible. So my main aim within my job is to improve the accessibility and the customer experience through clearer digital journeys. Within my role, I'll always try and promote online services as well, and in order to self-serve the customers. So where customers are already online, I'll always try and ensure that they can do it themselves. So whether that's an online form or in order to contact us online as well. Within East Lindsey, online capability is constantly increasing. So at the minute it's at 61.67%. So that basically consists of how many customers that contact us that actually are already online themselves. Within my role, I'll also try and reduce contact volumes to free up staff for priority customers. So where customers are online already, if we can put the routine inquiries online, it will then free up staff in order to support vulnerable customers. Okay, so what I've done so far. So far, I've met with 11 service managers since May. I started my role in May, and I'm already in contact with another 20. So it has sped up a lot more over the past month or two. I've also worked with the web team in the ICT team and improved the East Lindsey's contact us page. This is actually live at the moment, so please do feel free to have a look. There's an interactive department panel where it lists all of the web page links and forms just to make it easier for customers to look at them. And there's also a list of the digital contact platforms as well underneath that list. So I've also delivered some recommendations for the housing web pages. So for East Lindsey, the web pages apply for social housing, rough sleepers, and worried about losing your home. I've looked at and implemented recommendations which will hopefully go live once I've met with the service managers. Early feedback has been positive. I've met with Kerry James from East Lindsey, who's working on behalf of Jason Oxby. And the recommendations include a clear structure and layout, step-by-step guides, online forms, the use of plain English, and promoting digital contact platforms. Okay, so a bit about what I've got planned over the next 3 to 6 months. So now that housing's done, I'm planning on targeting waste next. Just to give you a bit of an idea, so waste across all 3 clients, there's 121 web pages. So it is a very large but important area to tackle. And I plan on doing this before the food waste scheme goes live, just to ensure that this transition goes as smooth as possible. Once that's done, I then plan to look at revenues and benefits. I also understand that this department has very high public interaction, and we get a lot of contacts daily, which could be moved online. and they could be classed as routine inquiries. Another thing that I plan on doing, so I'll be tracking my recommendations once they've been implemented. So I'll really be looking at the contact statistics from the phones and on the web pages just to see the impact of my work, especially when using Google Analytics. So I'm also looking at completing some training courses to help with my work. So I'll be doing an introduction to web accessibility course and a plain English course. So these will both really help and benefit myself when doing my work, as it will allow me to implement wording in a sense, just to make it so that it's less confusing for customers. So it will support all customers depending on their literacy skills as well. So I also plan on attending a Links digital session as well. So I've met with Roxanne Warwick already, and myself and her both agreed that it would be very, very beneficial to attend a Links digital session, as it will allow me to hear feedback from customers and residents firsthand in order to see what works on the websites and what don't. And I'm also currently in the process of doing some work for local land charges with Sean Sharp and web editors guidance notes with Suzanne Rolfe. And one of the main aims, which will take a bit longer than the rest of them, is to meet with the remaining service managers. But I plan on doing that within the next 3 to 4 months, hopefully. Okay, just a little bit about looking ahead and a bit of your input. So this is just to get some feedback from everyone in this room. So what areas do you feel need prioritising? Are there any services or pages that you think customers struggle with? I'm open to all feedback and collaboration in order to improve digital access. So yeah, that is everything. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, and welcome. You're very welcome to this meeting of the Overview Committee, but to the organisation as a whole. It's
thank you.
Good to know where you've come from and the information and background that you have. That's been very useful. Thank you. And again, before we just open the debate, I think it would be good to put this out to members point brief with your contact details in as well, so that people can feed back to you. But our request really today came from a scrutiny panel that was chaired by Councillor Yardsley about support for town and parish councils in particular, but sort of looking at the websites and what was done on the websites was one of the recommendations that came from that. So I don't know if you've seen that report, but that would actually be quite a good thing for you to have a look at, because there would be some good background information to the recommendation that came from that. Okay, so questions or comments for Lewis? Councillor Hesketh.
Good, thank you, Lewis, for your presentation, and welcome to the organisation. Wish you every success in what you're doing, because it's really important to us. And I was very impressed that you've highlighted that going to the digital links sessions is really important, because I think that will be invaluable in finding out, because you're a young chap, and you know, folks like Councillor Watson over here probably find it more of a challenge to navigate some of these web pages and things, because it's maybe not as innate as it would be. So I think that's really really good, and we're looking forward to you being successful in what you're doing. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Councillor Mackinson Sanders.
Some years ago, my good friend Councillor Graham Marsh and I test drove the new council website, and we thought it was a really good idea, because we were rather, I'll speak for both of us, rather dim about computers really, and it was, but we never asked any councillors to actually look at any of these web things, and we're a valuable resource for you. And it was quite interesting, wasn't it? Our what we found.
Lack of knowledge.
Oh, lack of knowledge, we did. I'm glad you said it and not me. But and so we're quite happy to come along and do it, because sometimes we can pick up things that, you know, I know that you do it within PS2, but we can see it from a different dimension, can't we? Sadly, Links Digital don't come to Louth anymore, so you're going to miss out on quite a lot of population. But if you want some people to come and speak to you, I'm sure we can rattle some up. The other thing I was going to ask you is, what role has AI in what you're doing? Please.
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah.
So do you mean in regards to using AI for the job, or?
Well, how can you use it effectively to, because that saves other people's jobs, and how are you using it when you're creating web pages, or how are you adapting to this modern way forward?
So considering it's very early on still in my job, going into this.
Don't worry, we ask all these questions.
Going into this role, I haven't actually been using it personally. So I've been using it not yet, basically. So I've coming into this role, I've been doing it just myself from first hand. So it's definitely something to look into, because I know it's a very valuable piece of technology, isn't it? So it's definitely worth looking into in the future.
And
but I've heard very good feedback from people that have used it for jobs. So.
And just to
Is that a
take
bit
up,
of a training need that you need? Do you need to go on a course to do a bit more of it, or is there anything we can recommend that will help you push that a bit?
So I understand how it works. So I can understand, I can see how I would use it for the job. But coming into this role, I was very passionate about joining this job. So I just tried to do the job myself as much as I could, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure Richard Steele's the person to go to for AI. I think he knows a lot about it. So.
good, excellent, thank you. And just to pick up on Councillor Makinson-Sanders' point about using councillors, please, if we can test drive websites and things for you, then please use us, because we do tend to probably be slightly older than the workforce. So maybe not as computer literate, some of us. So if we can help, please use us to do so.
Thank you very much.
If there's nothing else from anybody, thank you ever so much. And, you know, we wish you all the very best. And thank you, Amy, for coming and supporting Lewis this morning. And we'll move on then to item 9, which is the carbon footprint updates and revised carbon reduction action plan. My apologies for having kept you waiting so long, Christian and Heather this morning, but over to you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Yes, there's a few unfamiliar faces in the room to me today, so just in case some of you don't know who I am, I'm Christian Allen. I'm the Assistant Director for Regulatory Services, and Climate Change and Environment sits within my brief. I'm going to pass over to Heather, who's going to present the report, and obviously Graham's in the room, who's a portfolio holder. Between the three of us, if you have any questions, we'll each of us chip in. So I'll hand over to Heather. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you.
Lovely, thank you. So East Lindsey District Council agreed an ambitious target to reduce their carbon emissions to net zero by 2040, with a minimum reduction of 45% by 2027. My reports and the accompanying analysis provide annual updates for 2022 and 2023. Is that better? Yeah. Lovely. So my report and the accompanying analysis provide annual updates for 2022 and 2023 on our progress towards these targets, as well as an updated carbon reduction action plan, which outlines the programme of work needed to deliver the ongoing carbon reductions. It's probably necessary for me to acknowledge the delays in reporting for the carbon footprints for the last couple of years. This was initially due to the Carbon Trust not supporting future updates of its footprinting toolkit. So alternative options were explored. However, they would have required significant changes to the initial methodology used and require rebaselining of the footprint, which would also ultimately have an additional cost as well. So since then, the Carbon Trust have agreed to support the annual updates due to some changes in their business practices. And this is very positive news for us, but it has, of course, put the work a little bit behind schedule. So the 2024 footprint is currently being prepared and should be complete by the end of the year. I'll move across to the slides because I've got some graphics just to support the overview, as there's quite a lot of data within my report. So in 2022, East Lindsey District Council's total carbon emissions decreased by 25.4%, going from 2,357 tonnes of carbon dioxide equivalent to 1,758.2 tonnes of CO2, with Scope 1 emissions, which arise from fleet and gas, making up 60.5% of the total carbon footprint. The most significant reduction to emissions was from our fleet and can be largely attributed to changes in the reporting methodology, which have enabled more accurate categorisation of vehicles and emissions factors to be used for different vehicle types. Emissions from gas were also reduced by 13% in 2022, primarily due to the disposal of Skegness Town Hall and Tedder Hall. And we also achieved small reductions from water and electricity as well. This next graphic on screen, I won't go into the slides in too much detail, but in particular, the chart in front of you is quite a useful graphic, I think, because it demonstrates our progress to net zero from our baseline year of 2019 all the way through to 2040 in that dark blue line at the top. The lighter blue line below that shows a track of our targets, so the 45% reduction by 2027, going all the way down to zero at 2040. And then that grey line below tracks our progress against that sort of baseline starting point year on year. So this very much compares sort of apples with apples and hopefully gives a bit of a concise overview of where we're at. So in 2023, East Lindsey District Council's total carbon emissions decreased by 7%, going from 1,758.2 tonnes down to 1,632.7 tonnes, with the most significant reductions being from gas following the disposal of Tedder Hall and Skegness Town Hall, and also, of course, the move to the hub that we're in today. Significant emissions reductions to waste and water were achieved in 2023 of 32% and 37% respectively. The disposal of some of our public conveniences in the portfolio assisted with facilitating this reduction in emissions from water, as well as more sustainable responsive maintenance upgrades, so things like hand dryers in public conveniences. Reductions in waste are also likely due to cultural changes brought about by the office relocation and communications around changes to procurement practices that we've brought in following the implementation of the Sustainable Products Policy. Small reductions to emissions from electricity and fleet were made in 2023, and it's hoped that the procurement of 3 electric pool cars and the introduction of the Lightfoot telematic system in 2025 will also enable continued improvements to fuel efficiency and emissions reductions from this category to be achieved, while we also continue to explore longer-term options. So business travel was the only category where emissions increased in 2022 and 2023. It appears to be a sort of post-COVID bounce back of staff returning to the office more and travelling to meetings in person more frequently. So this trend was apparent both with employee commuting in 2023 and with the business travel. So the carbon footprints for 2022 and 2023 show substantial reductions being achieved year on year. And overall to date, we have achieved a 46% reduction in emissions since the baseline year of 2019. This figure excludes upstream Scope 3 emissions and water, as they were not brought into the scope of the footprint until 2021. But we have therefore achieved a 45% reduction in emissions several years in advance of the 2027 target. And further gains are already in the pipeline, as outlined alongside the operation of Tedder Hall finally concluding within the 2024 footprint, and also things like plans to add additional solar PV to the hub building here. My final slide just demonstrates that continued progression on that chart. So as you can see, the grey line is quite significantly below the 2 blue lines, showing a really good rate of progress. I've also popped the direct figures on there so that you can make, as I say, that sort of apples for apples comparison between 2019 and 2023. So you can see the sort of granular data in terms of figures year on year there as well, which I hope is helpful. Finally, in addition to the footprint analysis, as part of the carbon reduction action plan review, our progress to date was recorded, and also we brought up to date delivery timeframes. So this was an action plan that had already been approved, and we've looked to carry out a review to ensure that it's still relevant, up to date, and that we're also giving some commentary on what we've achieved so far as well. So some notable actions from the action plan that have been completed include the following: the introduction of first EV pool cars, LED lighting replacements at Louth Depot, the Vehicle Maintenance Unit and Mablethorpe Business Centre, feasibility proposals for solar PV at Louth Depot being undertaken, expanded EV charging capacity installed at the hub, a gradual migration to cloud-based servers being undertaken by the ICT team, and the hub monitoring here showing consistently better than expected energy consumption data as well. The sustainable products policy was also developed, and work has been ongoing to embed this and support the policy's implementation across the partnership. We've also introduced a salary sacrifice scheme for electric vehicles. Carbon literacy training has been rolled out to members, and we also formed the SELCAN network, which is South and East Lincolnshire Climate Action Network, which are developing and delivering projects with members from across the public, private and third services as well. So I would request that the committee recommends the updated carbon reduction action plan to Executive Board for approval, and I'm happy to take any questions you might have.
Thank you very much, Heather. Christian, did you want to add anything to that? No? Graham, I think you're the portfolio holder with responsibility for this. Did you want to add anything?
Just very quickly, just to say thank you to Heather for this report. Not wishing to pick favourites, but if there is one thing when I leave this council at the end of this term that I shall look back on and feel very pleased to be associated with, is this particular team. Not only have they taken on what appeared at the start to be a massive task to reduce our carbon footprint by the level it was, but also the way that Heather particularly has run SELCAN and involved other council members, but particularly members from university, members from industry, and lots of other people, to not actually make this council focused, but to make it focused so that we can have an influence on the wider body. I am also particularly proud of the work that we've done on the homes improvement grants, and that's another arm run by Rachel, all overseen by Christian and Sarah. So I just for me to acknowledge to my team what a particular excellent job I think they're doing, and we continue to do. And like I say, I should look back on this particular part of my portfolio with a little bit of a skip and a jump and a bit of pride. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Councillor Hesketh, I think you were first.
Yes, thank you. I'm afraid I've got real difficulties with this report, and in my opinion, it needs representing before it goes to the executive. I'll just go through a few points. I've got pages and pages of notes, but I'll just try and be succinct. The first one is that, and which is on page 61, the most significant reduction to emissions from our fleet was largely attributable to changes in the reporting methodology, which enabled more accurate categorisation and emission factors to be used for different types of vehicles. So by using a different reporting method, we've demonstrated that we've reduced our carbon footprint. No, we haven't. What we've done is use different reporting methods. So really, I've recategorised my Mini that I'm driving outside as a bicycle or something, or I called it a Sherman tank, but now it's a Mini. So I've shown that I've reduced my carbon footprint. I haven't. I've just done a paperwork exercise, and which is probably not our issue. It's probably national government who have set the framework and the calculation methodology, which actually is conning people that we've made a difference. And frankly, except for changing vehicles, I certainly can't see the evidence of it in this report. Sorry, I'm going to get quite animated here because I'm quite passionate about this. In my opinion, if we continue to use this basis, rather than restating. If this was a financial report, you would restate the numbers back to the beginning and then represent it based on the new financial position under your understanding. And I think we need to go and be honest and restate. If we found that our vehicles are different, we need to restate it. And then what we need to do is to say, have we improved from that real position? Not come up with some improvements based on some fudge from central government because they've changed their categorisation. I'm not criticising the work we're doing, but I think we cannot tell the public that we're reducing our carbon footprint when we're not. Take credit for what we do, but when, you know, there's things here that we've not done. So it needs rebasing, in my opinion, so that we're honest. It appears that, you know, getting rid of buildings and toilets has a huge effect on our carbon footprint. Actually, somebody else is going to have those toilets and buildings. So are we misleading people with that? I'm just trying to be honest here with folks, whether we're actually making a difference just by taking things off the books. Our Labour government seems to be able to think we can get to a low carbon footprint by shutting industry down. I'd hope we're not going to go the same way. There is a massive list of things that we're going to do. I have no indication really succinctly from this report as to what the top three are. We've got to get an average of 130 tonnes of CO2 every year off our books to be able to reach the target. I have no idea each year what the action plan is for the top three to get to those 130 tonnes. I've got rafts of initiatives here which look great, but very few of them actually have something tangible which I can say, is it value for money? Is it going to deliver? What's it going to deliver as a percentage? So I'm not saying don't do this, but gosh, we could cut this down to a fraction, one page, in my opinion, one page, and we could probably save a heck of a lot of time in that minute of our staff's time that they could focus on more on customer services. I'm sorry to say that because I generally want to be supportive, but I really can't support this going forward as a representation of what we've actually achieved.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Marsh, did you want to comment on that?
Yeah, quite simply, this is a representation of the council's footprint, and by disposing of these buildings, we no longer have that footprint on our book. I accept that footprint is still there for somebody, but we're not claiming we're challenging the world. We're claiming that this is what the council's footprint is, by the sheer fact that we are doing things like disposing of assets which are carbon heavy and introducing things where we get carbon reductions, like we've had before full council the plan to put a solar thing on the side of the hub here to help run the hub. That's all good stuff that we're doing. I think if we reduce this to one page and brought this before this, and if you reduce this to one page and took it to the executive, I would expect my executive colleagues to kick me around the room by saying, what are you trying to cover up, because there's no information here. And I accept your points that it doesn't always look as if we've got the top, and I'm not bothered about which the top three. I'm bothered about them all, and if we can work on them and reduce our carbon footprint. And for me, the bottom line is like business. How much carbon reduction has this council stopped producing? I don't care how we get to that. I'm just more interested about how much we have reduced our carbon reduction. So I take your points and we'll look at them, but I do believe that we're on the right track.
I do think, though, there's some good points there that maybe you could look at before you take it to the executive board. I mean, I think the issue about the top three is actually quite a good one. I think it would be quite good to identify at least a priority order for some of them. I'm not saying all of them, but I think that would be quite a simple way for us as members to be able to identify what was going to do most good, really. So I think that's a good point. I'm going to take Councillor Arnold. I'll come back to you, Councillor Hesketh.
Thank you. I have to agree with Councillor Hesketh. The way this is worded is that's a hot potato, so we'll just put it down. So now we've gone a bit more carbon neutral. Oh, that's going to do this. And I get that we need to get rid of stuff that's carbon heavy, but we need to be a bit more open about why we're doing it and where that's gone, because this isn't just an issue for our council, it's an issue for all these people and the people that will come after us. You know, we are trying as human beings to reduce our carbon footprint, and just by disposing of that toilet block to somebody else or that building to somebody else, actually, and in the grander scheme, we haven't reduced it at all. Yes, on paper we have, but actually, where's our responsibility then? That's a bit that, you know, if we all just did that, all that carbon footprint is still going to sit there, but no one's going to own it. So actually, what difference have we made to the future of this human beings? And that worries me a little bit. Some of the comments then about, you know, we're saying that it's a COVID bounce back of people coming back to work. We have to acknowledge that we might have reduced our carbon footprint by building this fancy building, but actually we have increased the commuter footprint by building this fancy building because people have to travel further. We share offices between our partnership, which means they are then travelling to different places as well. And, you know, it doesn't sit comfortable for me either, I think. And I think there needs to be an acknowledgement that just because you've offloaded it, where's our responsibility? Yeah, I don't know if I've worded that right, but it feels a bit uncomfortable.
Well, some people may be travelling further, but some of us, of course, are travelling far less than we used to before. So but that still goes for our staff as well, because a lot of them I know live in Horncastle and are now just coming the 200 yards up the road like I do, rather than the 17 miles to, well, if I could walk, I would.
And we have a policy where we have enabled officers not to have to travel into the office, and they work agile out in the field. They've all got the capability now, planning, enforcement. They don't need to come to the office. They can go straight to the site, straight to the job. They don't need to come back at night. They can download off their IT equipment. There's more and more Teams meetings being held where, I mean, the number of actual times that I leave home and go to a meeting when actually, in fact, I can do it via Teams has risen exponentially. So we are making reductions. And can I just go back and say again, if you're expecting me to be the whipping boy because we've got rid of property and we've still got to hold that carbon, what a load of rubbish. We are here showing you what the council's carbon footprint is. You can't keep on adding all the buildings and everything we've got rid of because it's somebody's responsibility. It's showing you what the council's carbon footprint is. We're not saying that we're not responsible for the rest of it still, and that we shouldn't try and influence it. But anything we can do, and we do it through CellCan, is to encourage other businesses and people to reduce their carbon footprint. We are showing that we are doing that by some of the processes that we have taken, and we have reduced the carbon footprint because we've built this, because it's far better. And yes, that building will be at Skegness. The sad thing for me is, I know people call me a Sassenach, because it's a listed building at Skeg, the chances are it will never get knocked down. It'll just look an eyesore. All these old buildings should be flattened because they're not carbon effective. So they
through the chair, please. Through the chair, please.
So yeah, we get rid of all the old buildings that are not effective and useful, and do something different with the footprint. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, I think this is right, and this is the point of this committee, is to challenge you as the portfolio holder before you take a report to the exec board. So you know, if this comes back through council, that this is where we're coming from and these are the challenges you will get. So Heather, did you want to say anything at this point?
Yeah, please could I come in?
Yeah.
Particularly, I'll start with the first comments around the categorisation of fleet data, and maybe I should change the wording of that because I think there's a slight misunderstanding in terms of what's been done there. So, in terms of the methodology that we use for carbon footprinting, what we have are called emissions factors that are issued by the Department for Energy Security and Net Zero. And the toolkit that we use utilises those figures, those calculations. So that's not something that we decide upon ourselves. We haven't sort of said, oh, this is one category of vehicle. Oh, no, it's not. We'll change it. We think it's this. It's that's changed. The emissions factors and methodology have become more refined over time. So what I have reported is standard sort of best practice in terms of carbon footprint methodology. And in fact, you can see that from 2019, the methodology changed. And in 2021, we actually introduced new categories to go above and beyond to give a more comprehensive overview of all of our emissions, sort of even going beyond our direct control. So it's certainly not the case of trying to sort of fudge something or hide something. We're following a methodology which changes, and the emissions factors change year on year. The other thing that maybe is important to note is that when you're reducing carbon emissions, it's always going to be a mixture of things that lead to that improvement. So some of them will be really granular. You'll be able to show a return on investment within a certain amount of times and a reduction, a certain amount of tons of carbon you'd expect to reduce by. But it can be things that, like, as I say, beyond our control, like the decarbonisation of the national grid even impacts that. Cultural changes. There's a lot of things that go into this that you can't necessarily present in that way. So I think it's important to remember the carbon footprint's a benchmarking tool. But it isn't designed to have that degree of accuracy in that way. It's supposed to be a guide and to show you a trajectory. But I think that's where we're maybe having a bit of an issue there potentially. And also a bit the same with the carbon reduction action plan. So you might say, oh, it's quite a long document, but you'll also note that a lot of those actions, that work has been ongoing towards them. So it's not a case of you do one piece of work and that's completed. A lot of these things take years to progress. So in terms of the carbon footprint for 2019, 2020, 2021, you'd have seen on those reports reference to other things like fabric improvements to buildings, for example, as well. So it may be that we've just done some of those projects earlier on, and that over these couple of years, it just happens to be that the biggest influences are things like changing the buildings that I've mentioned. So it's not the case that that's the same year on year. It's the case that in different years of reporting, you're going to pick up on different reductions that have come from different places, if that makes sense. As Councillor Marsh alluded to as well, whether we think it should be inside or outside of scope, the scope is already decided and was in the baseline year. So we are reporting in the standard way that every other council up and down the country would be doing. And it's maybe just a case of being clear in the wording of that to ensure that that comes across. So I hope that's helpful, but I'm more than happy to answer any further questions.
Thank you ever so much. Right, I'm going to take Councillor Watson and I'll come back to you, Councillor Hesketh, but Councillor Watson hasn't had a go yet.
Thank you. I can have a go now.
You can have a go, please.
Right. Carbon accounting is not like a business. It's a moving field. It's a new technology. It's not as simple as just putting in a set of accounts on a business. It changes. The methodologies has changed. We haven't had fudges from central government so we can massage our figures. The goalpost movies, right? The methods of accounting for carbon, they change, and the council has to go with those at that time. You can only measure from a certain point in time, allowing for the methodology, understanding that this is new technology. The methodology was in place at that time, and then you move on from there. It's not a perfect science. It's very much a movable, and it's a new and developing science, as we've heard, with various degrees of support from Carbon Trust and people like that. Yeah, sometimes as a councillor, I feel smug that it's now sitting in a nice new building, and I do fret certainly about what we've left behind. But the council can only do what it has control over, and it's doing its best to get our carbon footprint down. And I think that's important, really. And there are many difficult objects lying ahead, such as the refuse fleet. How are we going to manage that? And again, the technology is not there yet. This is very much just a changing field all the time. Heather runs the excellent CellCan group, which is a wonderful thing again that the council set up, whereby we have a whole nucleus of people from all over the county, from different walks of life, businesses, academia, and council input, and we're all working together to arrive at what we can do. It's not easy because support from central government is not really there, and it's a very frustrating exercise at times. But we are doing what we can, and yes, it ends up in quite a complicated action plan and this sort of thing. But it's not simple. It's not just three things you can hit, bam, bam, bam. It's much more involved than that, in my opinion.
Okay, Councillor Hesketh, I'll come back to you now.
Thank you. All I say is, it looks to me as if with these evolving spreadsheets that we use, we could have sat here and done nothing at all, and we could have claimed we reduced our carbon footprint by 30%. It's nonsense. Just by using new tools, we managed to reduce our carbon footprint. Well, we've actually got to do things, and I fully support Councillor Marsh's approach. We've got to put solar panels up and stuff like that, and all sorts of things like that, and insulate stuff. Absolutely excellent. So I want to know, to get 130 tonnes out every year, what are we going to do? And the reason that I do support the top three is to say you've got to know what you're going to prioritise. You can't prioritise 55 actions, and I just can't see from the report that was given what the actions were. And then we should also have, alongside that, what's the return on investment? If solar panels are going to give us an investment in 8 years back, it's probably a good investment. Some other scheme on vehicles, it might take 20 years to get the money back. We prioritise the solar panels. So that's what I'm saying. I think we need to relook at it, revamp it, make the report a lot more succinct, a lot clearer, because there's diagrams in there I frankly just don't understand. I think it needs to be represented. Sorry.
Okay, thank you for that. And I think the important thing is, we are here as a committee to challenge, and Councillor Marsh, as the portfolio holder, has heard those challenges, and he'll obviously go away and talk to Heather and to Christian and to anybody, Sarah, who isn't here this morning because she's on holiday, unfortunately. But, well, we can't control when people take their holidays, Councillor Makinson Sanders. And, you'll obviously have some discussion and debate around the comments that you've heard this morning. And that's the value of input from overview before it goes to the executive board. Councillor Marsh has had to leave us. He did tell me he was having to go at 12. So, Councillor Makinson Saunders.
Well, to me, all this is smoke and mirrors. To have an electric vehicle, you've got to send poor little children down mines for heavy materials in the Congo and places like that. And these electric cars are going to be scrapped within not long. Their batteries are not easy to dispose of afterwards. And the garage that I go to said we will end up with such a divided society because people won't be able to afford to put new batteries in cars, and so the rest of us will all be walking or having donkeys again. And it's quite interesting, you went into great length. Our planning department agreed to PVC in everything, PVC windows hither and thither. What are they made from? Oil, I think. So we speak with forked tongue, don't we? And where is the vision in this council? Because more solar panels, and they're coming from China, shipping things from China is very heavy on carbon, and it's not effective, and their human rights issues are disgusting. Why we're buying from them, I do not know. And where is the vision for that site over there? Let's put some solar panels on it. Isn't that easy? Why don't we design some beautiful homes that have got all the modern devices in them to show what carbon neutral homes can be built like? There are some just by the side of the Lincolnshire Showground, absolutely beautiful, and they sell for a huge amount of money. We've got enough space out there to do that, and we could do a fabulous job. We could show other people how they could do things. You know, why don't we have a vision? Because we're day-to-day politicians, not statespeople who can see slightly further into the future. And I think that's really sad for our society. And that would be such an interesting scheme. We could have had a competition for these houses. They could have been sold off, and we would have taken in the profits, or we could continue to run them. But you know, where is the vision in all of this? To me, it's all a con.
Okay, right. Well, people have stated their opinions this morning, and as I say, I think Councillor Marsh, before he left, has heard the comments, and we'll take those on board, and we'll have some discussion with Heather and Christian and Sarah about how some of those can be addressed. So thank you very much for that. Well, I think it's been useful, and you know, please don't take it as criticism. It is constructive criticism. It's meant to help, and that's the point of coming here in the first place, really. So thank you very much indeed for your input this morning. We are going to have a 10-minute or 5-minute, I'll say 5 minutes and then it'll be 10. If I say 10, it'll be quarter of an hour. So we'll have a 5-minute break, comfort break now.